All right, the Fantasy Joes are live. It's the Drafter Party Part 2. We got a lot to talk about. The draft is over, and we're not really sure what to do. We'll be honest with you. We'll see. We're going to talk. We're going to do a rookie mock draft here. But let me introduce myself. I'm Ryan Livergood, Roto Librarian, one of the three Fantasy Joes. We also got Trey Barrett. How are you, Trey?
Doing well, man. Doing well. Always happy to join you guys. I think I'm a little more excited about tonight's conversation than I even was after round one. This is going to be a lot of fun. There's a lot of guys to talk about.
A lot of guys to talk about. A lot of things to talk about. Right, Will Greenwood? How you feeling, Will?
Good. So many guys to talk about tonight. I wrote out my preliminary Superflex rookie rankings for this, trying to give it the first go. One, it's really hard not to overthink things on every single pick. I ended up diving into Darrell Bevel's history with tight ends for like a half hour. Terrible idea.
That's great. And Kyle Richardson joins us. What's up, Kyle? How you doing?
I'm doing all right, fellas. How are you? I didn't do my hair or anything tonight. I hope that's okay that I'm not all pretty like normal.
That's fine. For those who watch this in podcast version, we can assure you Kyle looks very pretty tonight.
That's right.
Because you're sporting hat and glasses doesn't mean you don't look pretty. So
we'll say with a better hairdo, yes, you do look nicer, but you're not bad tonight. It's not this time.
So I don't even know where to begin. I will say that my introduction to day two of the draft, since we've recorded, I had an event at my library on Friday night, a fundraising event. And so I was kind of checking in, but wasn't really able to focus. So then after that was over, I got home late and then I looked at what happened day two, and it just kind of blew my mind. I can't even imagine what it was like for you that were following it live. And some disappointing landing spots, I think, like guys like AJ Brown that we were so high on in the dynasty community goes to the Tennessee Titans, which, theoretically is a horrible landing spot. And, some surprises with, what teams picked certain players, what teams didn't pick, Tampa Bay. They did eventually take a running back, or they signed an undrafted free agent. I think they signed Bruce Anderson. Right. So, teams like that, like the Colts didn't take a running back as far as I can remember. I'm still getting caught up, frankly. Maybe they signed somebody. So there's so much just to dissect here. So many things we thought might happen in this draft didn't. So what are your general thoughts? I mean, what are your takeaways? Kyle, why don't you go first? What's your takeaway from this draft? What are your thoughts, like initial thoughts going into the rookie drafts? What are you thinking?
My thoughts are I hate 2019 and I'm over it already. There was a lot of things that happened that I did not expect. There was a lot of things that happened that caught me completely off guard. Jake and I were live streaming the first round, and even in the middle of it, towards the end of it, I went on this, not really a rant, but really this just response to the people who were commenting about things that we had gotten wrong. And I just said, it's exactly like fantasy football. We're taking a look at mock drafts, we're watching video, we're doing all these things all off season long. And it's always the process doesn't meet the outcome. And when you see a lot of these picks that are just where did those come from? It's a defeating feeling sometimes to say, oh my gosh, I completely whiffed on that. What happened? I thought I had that locked in, but it was definitely an odd one from start to finish.
Well, it's hard to really actually accurately predict the draft anyway, because there are 32 teams. Many of them want the same players. And if there's a running back tier, for example, that goes off the board, maybe they just decide, okay, it's not worth us to take a running back in the next tier. There's other guys we want to go after. So it's complicated. It's not fair to criticize anybody about draft predictions, in my opinion. And generally speaking, I think people that analyze the draft do a really darn good job with the information they have. Will Greenwood, what do you think? What's your takeaway from the 2019 NFL draft as it applies to dynasty rookie drafts that are coming up?
So I think funny with the first round, I feel like that was the round that went kind of chalky overall. There weren't as many receivers close to the Vegas over under. I think it was was it 2.5 or 3.5 for that. But I didn't think there were big surprises on the skill position fantasy players in the first round that some people slipped. But I think that second and third round really shocked everybody. I mean, if you had predicted that, you're doing the wrong thing and you need to work in the NFL. So I've been very surprised. I think the one thing that I've taken away so far, and it was actually said on the Dan Patrick show, is that it's Steve Kimes, right? He's the general manager for the Cardinals. He should be fired. He's horrible. That's not know that you're going to be taking Kyler Murray at the 101 and trade Josh Rosen before he's so far devalued you should have known that a while ago. And then to open that up so late and then trade for a mid-second and then, I guess in that whole scenario, I just think that's what makes me worried about Hakeem Butler. Is that like going to that franchise? But I think they have a good core of offensive talent. But anyway, I do agree. I think like that a move like that, where you're now taking an asset and you got like almost a minimal amount for it, is just awful. The whole rest of the draft picks, everything like that, except for the first round, I'm just baffled by.
It's just weird that Arizona didn't know they were going to do, allegedly. I mean, it seems like they had to know they were going to do that. But if it's true that they didn't know that they were going to take Kyler Murray until the last day, that's just, I don't know. This seems like a bad process to me. Trey Barrett, what about you? What are your thoughts on this 2019 NFL draft and implications for dynasty leagues?
Well, I've got a lot of thoughts that'll come out throughout the show tonight, but probably one of the things we won't dive into as much rather than talk about players that were drafted was, everyone's kind of talking about how they're down on this rookie class, which I understand. And I'm not here to completely argue that fact, but some really interesting and I think potentially impactful undrafted free agents that are signing, guys like James Williams that signed in Kansas City, Bruce Anderson, who signed in Tampa Bay, Penny Hart and Preston Williams, which obviously we know Preston Williams went undrafted likely because of his off the field issues, especially in light of the recent Tyreek Hill stuff. Because I believe it was a domestic assault scenario with Preston Williams, but he's a guy that you're talking about probably first or second round talent without the off the field stuff. So just some really interesting and quite potentially impactful guys slipping through, not even being drafted. So anyway, I think that a lot of guys to talk about. I think that there's going to be some very flat, very large tiers in this rookie class. I don't think that, you have huge drop-offs, although there is one particular, after you get past the top tier, which we'll probably discuss how big that is tonight for each of us. But I think that top tier, there's a pretty big drop-off, but some real flatness to this rookie class through the first couple rounds.
I looked up quickly, Trey, last time when you talked about TJ Hockenson being a benefit for Ken Johnson, I looked up Darrell Bevel. This is that little rabbit hole I went down today. The one thing I noticed about him is he has almost always had a star running back in his backfield, and he loves to ride them. So I think we're going to see Kerryon Johnson either blow up with a really good season, at least with touches wise, or if he can't hold up, that would be the only caveat. But I'm pretty excited for that after looking back at the past and just seeing his track record, because you can't always do that with coaches. Because the other one that looking at it was the Titans, because it's like, okay, AJ Brown, how do you get more excited about AJ Brown about landing with the Titans? And I couldn't really convince myself of it unless Ryan Tannehill is the quarterback, because then maybe they can throw for over 4,000 yards. I'm mostly kidding there, but anyway, their offensive coordinator came as a defensive, I think, player analyst in the Titans in 2010, and it's grown up mainly on the defensive side of the ball. So anyway, super interested.
Oh yeah, I had to put my shades on. The future for Kerryon is so bright, the cream rises to the top.
Paul Perticchese, welcome to the Fantasy Joe Circus, starring Trey Barrett as Macho Man Randy Savage, I suppose.
Guys, glad to be back. Obviously, a lot has transpired since I saw you guys late night on Thursday. A lot of players, different landing spots than maybe we expected.
Yeah, that's the truth. Hey, Paul, since you're, you spent so much time and you did how many did you get right at the end of the day? Did you beat last year's tally?
I did 205 out of 254.
Nice. Excellent.
So last year was 202 out of 256. So really the percentages really were in my favor this year. So last year was 202 out of 256. This year was 205 out of 254. So I didn't know for a while there, every time the Seahawks made a pick, basically, I basically was yelling because it was never somebody I had on my list of 400 at times. But
I was going to ask you, how many were there any players that were drafted that were just like, I don't know who this guy is. How do I know who this guy is?
Yeah, there was 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 people that I did not have any notes on that were drafted. That basically left me scouring to try to find something to put on my tweet about them. Usually just like their height, weight, and their stats, and maybe find something about their game.
So what was the earliest pick? That was that.
Oh, it was without a doubt, it was Quinton Williams' brother last night at the end of the third round. I didn't even know he existed. Like, didn't even know that Quinton Williams had a brother that was eligible to be in the draft, and sure as hell did not know that he was potentially a top 100 pick.
That's what makes it so interesting, right? So we're gonna we got some more guests joining us here in a little bit. So before they come on, I'm not even really sure where to begin. I guess here's my first question. What do we do? What's the actionable advice we have for our rookie drafts? If you have early picks, middle round picks, late picks, what are you trying to do, guys? Are you trying to acquire picks? Because the narrative seems to be that this is this down class and we're disappointed about landing spots, generally speaking. Not a great running back class in general. So do we is there an option to buy rookie picks, or is it, no, I mean, you just got to make the best of what you got? What's the play? Trey Barrett, what's your play?
Well, as an acquirer of rookie picks in the past 3 to 5 months, especially when they've been ridiculously undervalued in rookie drafts, I'm taking the opportunity to shop some of these rookie picks. For some guys who I like as buy lows, a guy like Leonard Fournette comes to mind, right? Like if you're, sitting there in the 105, 106 range on the clock and someone's interested in that pick, there are quite a few veterans I'd be interested in buying. I like this rookie class. The other thing is I would be looking to trade down. And I don't know that's something that you want to do right now. I'd wait till you're on the clock, because you never know when, Paris Campbell goes at 104 and your 105 all of a sudden is significantly more valuable. But I would be looking to trade down and acquire extra picks and acquire future picks. Especially when you get to the end of a round, if you're on the clock at 109 and you can trade, and there's no one you love there, you can trade that for a 2021st. I think that may be harder to do this year, but man, it's amazing what happens when you are on the clock and someone is there that a guy likes. So I'm going to be looking to do a lot of trading down in rookie drafts.
Yeah, you never know if it's a contender and they really want DK Metcalf or something. They think, well, I can trade this because it's going to be late in the first in 2020. Yeah, it's possible. It's certainly possible. John Bosch, you know a lot about values. You do a podcast on it. How do you value these rookie picks? What's your play going into your rookie drafts? I think John's on mute. Let me see if I can do something about that. Here we go.
It's a classic trade move.
I didn't realize you came in on mute here. Sorry about that. You got me now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, hearing what Trey said sounds fantastic. Trade down, but I actually think, like you said, at the end of that point, it's going to be a lot harder to do. Nobody's going to be – I don't think as many people are going to be very interested in giving up a lot to move up. People are just like, I'll just take whatever guy's there. That's my prediction for the rookie drafts. And I started to do a little bit of tiering today to prepare, because I have some that start in about 2 hours. And I honestly, like, it's kind of a mess. So the values are going to be interesting. You can get what you want. If you want to move up, I think it'll be a little bit easier, but I don't predict a lot of people wanting to do that, which means it's going to be a whole lot harder to try and move back.
Yeah. Other thoughts? Will, what are you going to do?
Well, I think unless somebody comes and gets a couple of them, I think in a one quarterback league, my cutoff is basically the top 5 I like and I'm comfortable with taking and thinking that they can accrue value. In Superflex, we're at basically top 7, because I'll put Haskins in there too, I guess. That I'm actually like pretty stoked about.
Anyone else? Paul, Kyle, you got any thoughts on how you're gonna attack these rookie drafts, or are you still trying to figure it out?
No, I mean, I don't think it's a strong draft at all anymore. To be honest with you, I'm going to be looking to get out completely if I could. If I see a right opportunity for, again, I'm a big fan. As much as I love the draft picks and I study these guys year round, I'm a big proponent of trading them, and not for older veterans maybe on the backside of their career, but I really like to identify year 2 or year 3 guys who I think could potentially break out. And like, I know right now, if I saw an opportunity to maybe like trade like the late round 1 or an early round 2 pick for Dante Pettis, I'd probably pull the trigger on it, because I'm more excited about a guy like Dante Pettis than what I'm going to get at pick 12 or, early second round. I look at this right now and I see about 10 guys that I'm excited for. And then I see another 6 to 8, depending on the type of league it is. And then I see like after 18, like, I don't want anybody. Like, I don't see anybody. I think they're all dart bros at that point. So at that point, then sure, if I'm picking like late second or early third, maybe try to trade down and just get a couple of picks and just kind of throw 2 darts at the board. But if I can't get a guy in the top 10, I'm probably going to look to try to trade, if I can get, I would ideally like to get 2 maybe of guys that I really like. But even those guys, like, I think this is a great opportunity to try to buy guys. Maybe somebody's a little nervous about, I know you guys are talking about Kerryon Johnson. I missed some of that before, but Kerryon Johnson is a guy that I expect him to be a guy who's going to break out this year. But there's been a lot of talk, some from him, some from his coaches, that they don't want that to him. They don't want to overburden him and give him a lot of touches. So that could maybe potentially scare an owner who has him. So, rookie picks always have a lot of pizzazz, especially right after the draft. So if you're sitting there with like pick 5 or pick 6 in the first round, I would deal that right now for Kerryon Johnson and wouldn't even think twice of it. And I would throw in a 3rd or a 4th if that's what it took to get right now, because we've already seen him be productive. And even if he is a 16 touch type of player a game, I'll feel better about that than this rookie class right now.
I would love to take Paul's advice, but the only league that I have rookie picks in, I already have Kerryon Johnson. So that's not going to be an option for me. But we were talking about it right before we went live. Like, that one league that I have those picks, I've got 1.01, 1.11, and then 2.01 and 2.02. And the only thing that's making me feel comfortable about picking still is the fact that it's an IDP league and it's balanced scoring. So I'm going to have a much larger pool of players to pick from. But for those that are in 1 QB leagues that don't have IDP like that, I mean, you get to that second round and it's like the best case scenario is that you're picking guys that you're hoping hit in the next year or 2 instead of guys that are going to contribute right away. And I mean, in terms of looking at it, I know a lot of people love Josh Jacobs. I like him too, but I still have N'Keal Harry is my 1.01. I'll take him in dynasty leagues to start up with rookies. And I'm still trying to process a lot of it as well. David Montgomery, I ended up liking where he landed. He had a ton of value heading into the combine. He lost a lot of that value. Now it looks like he might gain some of that back. I really liked Miles Sanders. I don't love the landing spot though, because it's not going to be a guy I think that you invest in this year and he becomes, that contributor right away. I think it might be next year. So we'll have to wait and see. The landing spots are real funky this year. It's going to take some diving. So hopefully fantasy owners have a little bit and they're not drafting at midnight tonight for their rookie league. If you are, that's great because you're already into it. But if you've got some time, try to process everything and take a look at it first.
Okay, and we're still processing too. And really the best way to process this is to do a super flex rookie mock draft. We're going to start that now. We have some other people that may be joining us soon. They might be too depressed over this draft and this rookie draft class to even join us. We'll see. But let's go and get started. I'm going to draw names. We're not going to just randomly have people jump in tonight. So I'm going to draw names. No one knows the order going into this. It looks like Kyle Richardson gets the 101 in a super flex rookie mock draft.
That's easy.
I think that's the only consensus pick there is anywhere this whole year.
You just made my night a whole lot easier.
All right, Kyle. Well, who are you going to take? I think we all know, but let's make it official.
We're going to go with Kyler Murray.
Kyler Murray.
Let's lock that in.
Let's lock them in. Is there anything we want to say about Kyler Murray? Obviously, no one's going to say, "Oh, this is crazy." I mean, there's no argument for anyone else, is there? Anyone?
I wish he had a better offensive line. I know that in free agency they were able to help it out a little bit. I would have liked it if they would have focused some more on the draft, but they got him plenty of weapons. There's going to be plenty of opportunities. He might just be running for his life 50% of the time. So we'll see.
Which isn't terrible for fantasy. So,
right. Yep.
As long as he gets away and he doesn't get killed, that's good for us.
Yeah, I don't think there's much more to say about Kyler Murray. One thing I will say too, I think one of the knocks, obviously his size was not coming in, and then some people were talking about his leadership and maybe not character issues so much, but could he lead a team? And I'm convinced he can. There was a really good Move the Sticks podcast, Kyler Murray 360. I think it was Bookie Brooks and Daniel Jeremiah that did that podcast, and they talked to his high school coaches and everything. And he exhibits that quiet leadership, and I so that's not a concern of mine anymore. If that's still a concern for people listening to this, so. Let's go to the 102, unless anyone else wants to talk about Kyler Murray. We got John Bosch with the 102.
Well, this is pretty easy. I'll go N'Keal Harry here. He is my top wide receiver. I think there is an argument for one other player here, maybe two other players, but for me, it's N'Keal Harry right here.
Solid pick. I think probably maybe the safest pick at the 102, you could argue. No, I like it. What are the thoughts? Anyone want to debate that, the N'Keal Harry pick?
I mean, for me, he would have probably been I would have pivoted to the running back position, but I could totally understand. He's probably a little bit safer, but I probably would have went with the running back. We haven't seen an outside wide receiver besides the 1 year Brandon Cook was there, really make an impact there besides Randy Moss. Like, Brady more than ever is all about the short to intermediate. And listen, N'Keal Harry can win in that area for sure, but with all the catches that the running backs are going to get, Julian Edelman getting his, and they became a power running team. And if that was even more debatable, taking Damian Harris to add to Sony Michel, I think is even proven that. So listen, Brady's still going to throw, but I mean, I just don't know. I don't know if we're going to see many more, 3 touchdown, 300-yard games out of Brady. And I think it's going to be a lot of dinking and dunking. I actually think N'Keal Harry's best statistical seasons may come whenever Tom Brady retires. And that's baffling to say for arguably the greatest quarterback ever. I just don't see Brady really pushing the ball vertically down the field too much. So unless, N'Keal Harry's really going to make his living in the short to intermediate right now, and I think he's fine there, I just, we've always heard about the Patriots offense and the routes being very hard for young receivers to learn, that I do think there could be a little bit of a learning curve there, and Brady kind of relying on the guys he knows well, and the running backs, Edelman, even last year, Philip Dorsett, is at least in the system. He's not going to put up better stats than N'Keal Harry. I'm not saying that, but just at times, I think there's going to be games that maybe Harry has that, really good game, but then it could be another game where you see 2 for 20. Like, I think those games are very much going to be in this year. But again, long term, I see no reason where that's not a really solid pick. I think I would probably just go to the running back and take what I can get early on.
And that's the other, when I said there's an argument to be made, it's the running back, going the running back, because that value is the one that it's going to increase faster throughout.
Absolutely. Yep.
Overall, I think Harry's the safer pick. So that's what I ended up going with.
Wait, so nobody in Superflex would go Dwayne Haskins 102?
That was going to be my question.
I would not.
But let's ask Tyler Gunther with his first appearance on the Fantasy Joe's podcast. Tyler, how are you this evening?
What's up, fellas? I'm doing great. I actually just got back from a birthday party not too long ago, so my mind is all over the place. It was for a kid, so yeah. I'm still kind of winding down from it, but I'm doing great. What a draft to just destroy people's thoughts about it, right? I mean,
yeah, that's what we were saying for sure. Yeah, hopefully this exercise will help us figure this out, figure these players out. So at the 101, Kyler Murray went. This is a super flex rookie mock draft, and then at 102, N'Keal Harry. So, thoughts on maybe Dwayne Haskins here at the 102, something you'd entertain.
Me?
Yeah, Tyler. Yeah.
I would entertain it. I think I'd still probably go Jacobs, because Washington is a dumpster fire, I feel like, all the time. So I feel like I'd probably go with the running back that is probably promised to get 20 touches a game and will probably have his value go up. And I bet mid-season, John, I know you're a big person on values. I think mid-season you'll be able to get Haskins plus for Jacobs because of the fact that Jacobs is a running back and people want running backs on their team. So I actually have Jacobs as my 101 in non-Superflex, but in Superflex it's Kyler and then Haskins and Lock later on. But yeah, I think I'd probably go Jacobs at 3.
This is a great time to interject. I mean, you hear it all the time, but it just rings so true. This is where it's so important to know your league mates and know what the temperature of everyone else is regarding quarterbacks, right? And, Superflex League come in all shapes and sizes, right? Is it 10 teams? Is it 12 teams? Is it 14 teams? Quarterback values change drastically as you go up in size. Do quarterbacks score 6 points for passing touchdowns? Are there points for carry and other premiums that boost the scoring of other positions? I mean, so many things. So if you're in a league where quarterbacks are, if it's a 14-team Superflex, 6-point passing touchdown, and quarterbacks are just like impossible to trade for, and I'm sitting at 102, I would look to trade it to someone looking for a quarterback, and so I think it's going to vary from league to league, team to team. I don't think it's ridiculous to take Haskins at 102, especially in a league, a Superflex league where quarterbacks are valued or thought of a little more highly. So just know your league.
Yeah, great point. I mean, that's so key. And if you haven't started doing that yet, you're not doing Dynasty correctly. You got to know your league mates, know who they like. Some of them have podcasts, not all of them do, of course. But your league mates might be on Twitter. They're in the chat. You can talk to them. Ask them after the draft. Hey, what do you think of this draft? Who do you like? They'll give that information to you. So do some research on your league mates. Hey, guess what? Tyler, you just joined us, and I pulled your name for the 103. So how about that?
Perfect. I think you guys already know who I'd probably go with. So it's Jacobs.
Yeah, I like Jacobs, and I probably right now would be very tempted to take Jacobs with the 102 as well. Thoughts on Jacobs? Is he everyone's first running back off the board?
It's close for me. I know people are scared of the Philadelphia situation because, he's just going to be a running back by committee, but I really like that offense, and I love having a running back in an explosive offense. I trust Oakland less than I trust Philly, so I kind of want Miles Sanders a little bit more, but I do. Jacobs is going to be most people's number one running back. I'll let them have him, and I'll take Sanders second.
Sanders has to beat out Corey Clement. You got to remember that.
No, not concerned about that.
Well, if you look though, Doug Peterson's done since he's been there. It's always been backfield by committee. There's usually like 3 running backs they put in and out of there. Darren Sproles he hasn't officially retired yet, right? Maybe he's back. So I mean, I think maybe long term Miles Sanders is probably going to emerge, but I don't know. Maybe if you're looking for that spike in value, maybe Jacobs is the way to go. Because I think that what's going to happen this year with Miles Sanders is I think it's going to be that running back, backfield by committee. I think that Jordan Howard is going to vulture touchdowns at the goal line. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. And it'll be interesting to see how people value Sanders. It really will be. I think maybe his value will be all over the board. I think most people really like him, though, at this point. I think we've hyped him up enough, right, Trey?
Yeah. Yeah, man, I think he's a great running back. I think, the landing spot. But, I mean, just a friendly reminder, landing spots, man, things change, right? I mean, Juju was being undervalued because Antonio Brown was in town, right? And Antonio Brown was going to play till he was 35, and now look what's happened. I mean, things just change so frequently in today's NFL, and obviously, I don't have a ton of faith in Gruden and Mayock to turn that thing around, but you just never know. I mean, except we do know Gruden is going to be there forever because they're paying him a fortune. But and if you like Sanders that much more than Jacobs, and you're on the clock, man, I'm sure that someone that's a couple spots down the board would love to come up and grab Jacobs. So that's just one of those great opportunities to, hit up whoever's next on the clock and, see if you can make a swap and pick up a second. Or
fortunately, most of mine are auctions, so I'll just spend a little bit less money and take Miles Sanders and be okay with it.
There you go.
I think for me, it depends a lot on my team makeup as well. If I need running back help right away, then I think Jacobs would be the way to go because I think he'll be like, if I'm looking at this from like a redraft standpoint, if I'm looking at 2019 specifically, I think Jacobs will be the guy. But if I'm saying I've got pretty strong running backs, I'm looking for high upside in the future, I'm good for 2019, then I'm probably taking a shot at Miles Sanders instead because I think after we get out of 2019, looking into the future when they start to get rid of some of those running backs, that's when he really becomes, I don't want to say bell cow, I don't want to say 3-down back, but he's the guy that gets the majority of the touches.
Other thoughts? Will, I'm curious what you think of the running backs. Is Jacobs your number one, or is it Sanders?
I was just kind of waiting until some of the picks came up to chat about them. But yeah, I'm going to go Jacobs first overall just because of draft capital, and I think that offense has a really good chance for improvement. So I think he has a very, very good opportunity to increase value early on. And then for me, it's easy to have Miles Sanders second. Philadelphia, I think, is going to be a much improved offense still, touchdown-wise overall. And it was kind of talking about in the chat a little bit. They've been a committee for so long because they haven't any good running backs. Like it's fine to piece together these okay guys who then produce and flash with Philadelphia. But I'm going to bank on, or at least guess or gamble on, and put my chips in that is more of a system production rather than talent. And then that Miles Sanders can be the most talented running back in there and be more valuable. If I'm wrong, though, I feel like that's not a horrible gamble I'm willing to take, you know? No? Silence from everybody.
We'll silence the crowd.
Hey, sorry about that. I think I was technical difficulty on my side. Hey, Paul, who are your top 3 running backs in this class for Dynasty after the draft?
Yeah, I mean,
it's huge, Paul, because if you are wrong, I'm not coming on Wednesday.
Okay. So it's Jacobs, it's Sanders, it's Montgomery, and then to be honest with you, I don't think there should be another running back that's even sniffing round 1 the rest of the way. I mean, I think after that, I can't remember in all my years of playing Dynasty, I can't remember another year that the running back class is worse than this. Like, to me, every other running back, maybe you can make the case to sell me on Justice Hill because he fits what the Ravens do. He complements Mark Ingram. The Lamar Jackson running ability could open some big plays up for him. But besides that, I mean, unless Todd Gurley's legs falling off, Darrell Henderson is a change of pace, need Gurley to go down. And, and he's my number 6, Henderson. I have Damian Harris at number 5 just because I think he might steal some touchdowns and kind of split the work down the middle with Sony Michel, even though they took Sony Michel, last year in the first round. I struggle to see how Devin Singletary, even in a backfield that doesn't have a lot except, some older veterans and then TJ Yeldon. I just struggle to see where Singletary is going to be this big time player there. He's 5'6". He doesn't really catch the ball. He doesn't have elite explosion. He can't pass protect. So he's my number 7, and I wouldn't want to touch him probably in the first 2 rounds. So I can't remember how poor of a running back group it is. I kind of thought today maybe some guys would end up in some good landing spots, and it was nothing. It was just one after the other, was just uninspiring besides the Justice Hill.
My 8 and 9 went to the same damn team. They're blocked behind Joe Mixon, and it's
yeah. Well, I didn't even bring up Tim. Rodney Anderson on skill alone was my number 2 running back in this class. I was kind of hoping maybe the medicals were a little bit better and he was going to go in round 4 or 5 and have a little bit more draft capital. And I like Travion Williams. He was my number 6 back pre-draft. And I love Joe Mixon. I think Joe Mixon's probably one of the top 5 or 6 most talented running backs in the NFL. So these guys, and I think he's going to be a workhorse now. I think they're going to use him tremendously this year. So those guys are handcuffs. If you own Joe Mixon, forever. Late stashes, and you just kind of put him on your taxi squad, or if it's that type of league, Bryce Love's not playing the whole year. I mean, I don't know what to do with the running back group. I really want no interest in any of them.
I just tried to give Paul a virtual high five for bringing up Rodney Anderson because I got far too many messages today about, hey, how's your running back 2 doing right now? And I was like, I don't know what to tell you. He's not being drafted. I mean, I knew he wasn't going to be drafted high. I built that into his value anyway when I talked about it, but I do love me some Rodney Anderson. But the landing spot made me cry a little bit. So
yeah, It's been ridiculous how I've had probably about 3 people come after me. Well, I've updated my rookie rankings, and I've had a lot of people come up to me like, "Hey, how could you have Hawkinson at 2?" I'm like, "Who else am I going to put up there?" Like, I put Jacobs ahead of Hawkinson, but like rankings right now with how the draft ended up, Hawkinson's probably the safest pick out of everybody. And then you look at because he asked, how could I have him ahead of Harry? Well, name a New England wide receiver that has panned out that has been drafted early. I'll wait. Like, I'll sit here and let you tell me. And it's just, it was frustrating to see the draft and how it panned out for these rookies. And I mean, people are probably just going to fall. Like Kelvin Harmon, like people had him high. He's a compensation 6th-round pick, but he landed in a pretty good spot. Like Washington doesn't have much other than scary Terry McLaurin. And I mean, could he still land in the 2nd round? Like there's players like that are just, you don't know.
I think he still does end up in 2nd rounds of a lot of rookie drafts. Just because people remember his name from before, and maybe they just discount what happened in the draft and where he got drafted. And like you said, well, he went to a wide receiver needy spot. So people that want to just, completely ignore the draft capital will say he will succeed. Man, that's scary to me.
Yep.
I'll let somebody else have him in the 2nd. If he makes it to the 3rd, I'll try. Then I'll take it.
We're going to be so surprised with these rookie drafts, especially in the 2nd rounds. Hey, Trey.
So I was thinking about N'Keal Harris with the Patriots. I was looking at this again earlier today about like Patriots draft history with wide receivers, because it's not very good in the early rounds. They've converted some people. They have basically Troy Brown and Julian Edelman that have really succeeded for them. And the last one was Dobson back in 2013 in the 2nd round of pick 59 overall. And he didn't pan out whatsoever. But the part of the thing with Harry, though, is I think looking at team history that far back and what they've done and how the team has changed and how the NFL has changed, the Patriots have done such a good job of adapting to the current NFL to continue to win and be better that them taking this pick this early, I do think matters. I don't know if it puts Harry at the 101. I struggle with that because what if he struggles right away? Like, what if he has 2 drops in the first game, or he does like the Sony Michel where he stopped his route early because he was used to college routes versus pro routes because he missed training camp. There's a lot of things that could make his value go down a lot faster than have it rise. But I think Harry could be the playoffs MVP of this year for the real NFL. But I wouldn't be shocked at all if he gets off to a pretty slow start.
Yeah, and I want to counter that with you saying they're pretty good at adapting. Usually when the NFL goes one way, New England's go the other way. Like, look at them last year. They went with Sony Michel. They ran the ball a ton. Look at their draft. They drafted a ton of offensive linemen, a lot of trench players, and then they drafted Damian Harris, which showed me early too, which showed me they want to run it some more, do a lot of play action pass. And that scares the crap out of me for Harry. Like, I like Harry as a player. I think there's a chance he could be, I don't know, a wide receiver 2 this year, a low end. And that's on probably a good season for him for this, because they still have Edelman. Who knows what they're doing at tight end? Maybe that's where the targets go to, but I think they're going to run the crap out of the ball.
They also took a punter in the 5th round, which I thought was like the least Patriots thing they could have done in this draft. But hey, what the heck, man? I mean, they had like 20 draft picks, so why not secure, special teams, a solid special teams piece. We've seen that work out well for teams in the past.
Anybody want to take the punter at the 104 here before a random name is picked?
Well, Trey gets to pick the 104. So punter. I pulled your name, Trey. So who do you want to take? Kyler Murray, N'Keal Harry, and Josh Jacobs off the board. I
think you just picked the punter.
Hey.
I'm almost sure that was the pick.
I'm in, because he's going to be their backup quarterback. So I actually just checked, and in this particular league, I traded for the 101 about 3 months ago, stole it. So I already took Kyler Murray. I don't need a quarterback. I'm gonna take Miles Sanders here. We already talked about him. I like him a lot. He's a guy that I've been really rising on. Dwayne Haskins obviously in serious consideration, but I'm good at quarterback. I usually am in Superflex League. So I'm going to take the guy that's going to put up some points for me at the running back position, Miles Sanders.
Okay, we talked about Sanders a little bit already. Any other thoughts about him, or should we just press on with the 105?
No, just get Corey Clement's back up. I'd hope you already have Corey Clement. So
I think it's going to get a little interesting here. And Paul, you get to take the 105.
So for me, I'm pretty satisfied with who I'm going to take here because I'm on the cusp of having him right now as my number one wide receiver. I think it's debatable for me. I've actually flipped it already twice today. So Harry's right now my number one, but he actually wasn't my number one in the middle of the day. And I'm taking Deebo Samuel out of San Francisco. I love the player. Pre-draft, he was my number 4, number 5 wide receiver. I think he's pro ready. I think he's versatile. I think in that offense, him and Dante Pettis, I think are going to lead that team with Kittle in terms of production. And I think it's going to come as early as this year. So I don't think it's going to be a guy you're going to have to wait to get some type of production. He might not have the ceiling of N'Keal Harry or the ceiling of a guy like DK Metcalf or some other guys, but I think he's a guy. I've comped him a lot to a blend of Jarvis Landry and DJ Moore, and I like his all-around game. I think Shanahan's going to find a lot of ways to be creative with Deebo Samuel, and I think he's probably. I said it before the draft even happened, and then this was my ideal landing spot. I wanted him in San Francisco, and I wanted AJ Brown with the Colts. Didn't get that for AJ Brown, but Samuel did end up in San Francisco. I think it's a perfect match, and I think he is going to be used. I think he could lead the receivers in production this year. I like Pettis a lot too, but I wouldn't even be surprised if Deebo has a really productive rookie year there because that's how much I like his game and think he fits what Shanahan wants to do.
Would you rather have Pettis or Deebo?
I think Debo's got a higher long-term upside, so I think I'd rather have Deebo. I think also that there's still that a little bit uncertainty around Pettis. I still think I could maybe trade like I said before, a later first round pick. I think, somewhere in that 9 to 12 range. I'd be comfortable dealing maybe even in this draft, maybe even 6 or 8. But I think I could probably get Pettis for a little bit less value than taking Deebo.
The correct answer here is Jalen Hurd.
Who knows?
I think he could lead the team in rushing touchdowns. And that's not because I don't like him as a receiver. I do. I just think they drafted him to be very versatile, and all their running backs are, very similar in what they do. That I think that he could easily be like literally a vulture at the 1 and 2 and 3 yard line, and he could come in and steal some touchdowns. And if he does that and he catches like 40 passes or something, then he's going to become fantasy valuable. But it's hard to guess if he really is going to be their goal line runner. I don't think it's added a realm of possibilities though.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a value in rookie drafts. Honestly, I don't think there's a lot of people. I don't know where his ADP was prior to the actual draft. It had to have been like 5th round, right? And so I don't know that people are gonna. I think people are pretty enamored with names, and I think Hurd, they're gonna ignore the fact that an early 3rd round pick was spent on him. And like you said, Paul, like he could be used in a lot of different ways. And he's so raw as a receiver. He's only been playing the position for not even 2 years now. So I think he could be an awesome investment if you can get him like in the 3rd round of rookie drafts. We'll see. He's a guy that's gonna be pretty interesting where he settles, and I think. He's going to go all over the place in various drafts.
Now, guys, I want to ask you something real quick because I've actually been struggling with it most of the day. Jalen Hurd has the draft capital. Calvin Harmon, we talked about before. I love him. He was my number 3 rated wide receiver pre-draft. No draft capital at this point. He's very much this year's Equinemius St. Brown.
Hey, watch it.
If you were gonna take one of those guys first, is it Hurd or is it Harmon? Is it the guy that is not nearly the wide receiver that the other one is, but has the draft capital to him and has that potential short yard touchdown running to his name? Or is it the 6th round pick that it's not out of the realm of possibility he gets cut also, which would be a buzzkill, but it's not impossible.
I feel like Hurd won't be the popular pick here, but he would be mine just because I feel like they could work him into the game plan better than what they could, like find touches for him one way or another. That's why I would probably pick him right now.
I think there's always going to be a better pick in your dynasty drafts, Paul, to be honest. I probably would avoid both of them. I'd rather take a chance on one of those second or third round tight ends that went, personally, as an example.
Oof.
No, I mean, but where are those guys going to go in the rookie drafts? I mean, seriously, we think they're going to go like third or fourth round. I mean, aren't those guys going to go pretty late? Those wide receivers.
Harmon's going to go in third.
Well, Harmon will go. Yeah, Harmon will go earlier because of name recognition. I guess they're just other options I'd rather take a chance on. Frankly, maybe if I had to choose Harmon, but
I'd probably go Harmon too if forced to choose between the two. I just don't. I don't think Hurd has a long-term future as a wide receiver there. I mean, I just don't. But I think Harmon, gosh, I think he's got a better upside, even though it looks really, really bleak right now. Just looks real bleak.
Hey, Ryan, I'm surprised you didn't take Hurd right away because he has 10-inch hands. He meets your standard requirements.
As does Deebo Samuel, 10-inch hands. Any ageist on the panel here that have a concern that Deebo is 23 years old?
I just don't like him. I think I have him at 17. I have Miles Boykin ahead of him. I have Andy Isabella ahead of him. I have Hakeem Butler ahead of him. So yeah, I've never been too big on Deebo. I think he's way too injury prone, and he's an older receiver. And the size, I like Pettis a lot more. This is a perfect opportunity for me to go out and get Pettis. I'm not going to own Deebo anywhere.
He went up to 4 for me, but as I discussed earlier with some people, that the tier for wide receiver is basically 1, 2, and then there's like 6 guys in a group. So Deebo falls into that group. He is towards the top of it for me, though.
Can be interesting. Let's move on to the 106. Will Greenwood, you get your first pick with the 106.
So let's recap the first 5 again.
Yeah, you got Kyler Murray, N'Keal Harry, Josh Jacobs, Miles Sanders, and Deebo Samuel. Excuse me.
Okay. Okay. This is so I did my kind of instant reactions today, and this is one of the earlier times where I've tried to just write them out with initial thoughts. And so with the 106, I'm going David Montgomery for the Bears, and I think volume, and I know he lacks athleticism. But I think David Montgomery is going to be good there. They have a solid offensive line. They still want to run the ball, and he's a good runner. I'm very excited that the Bears traded out to grab him. So there's going to be some capital there. And it was between that and basically Dwayne Haskins. And when I was doing it today, I went David Montgomery over him, and I like it. So I'm sticking with it.
I love the pick. I'm in Chicago here. Big Bears fan. I've been absorbing the Bears draft news, and it's been about David Montgomery because the Bears had no other picks, of course. And I really am intrigued by him. Obviously, he doesn't have lawn speed. He doesn't have, as Paul would say, he doesn't have one calling card, but all around he's a really great back. The comparisons to Kareem Hunt seem valid. The guy that recruited him to Iowa State is the running backs coach at Northwestern, and he's compared him a lot to Kareem Hunt. So I'm excited about David Montgomery on the Chicago Bears. I don't know what his upside is because I think with that Matt Nagy offense, they're kind of going to spread the ball around. And, maybe he doesn't have the upside of those guys that went ahead of him. But I like the pick a lot. I do like David Montgomery. And I think at the 106 here, it's pretty solid. So what do you guys think of David Montgomery? And then I'm a little bit of a homer here, so of course I'm going to be excited about him. So
he's my third running back. And honestly, of the top 3 running backs, I think any one of them could be the best running back at the end of this season, like the best one of this class. After him, like Paul said earlier, their running backs just garbage after that. So that, I like the top 3. I dislike every other one. And I think each of those top 3 could end up being the best one by the end of the season.
If Darrell Henderson had gone to a different landing spot, John, would you feel the same way? Would you?
No, I would like him much better.
Okay, I'm just checking.
It's in a bad spot. Like, how do out of 2 years in a row, people, I mean, I wasn't like a huge John Kelly fan, but
Right.
there were definitely some people that loved him, and he went there and just got crushed. There were a lot of Darrell Henderson fans. Now he's like, why? So, no, for me, it's three running backs or avoid.
Well, because Todd Gurley's knees, he's got arthritis in his knees. Haven't you heard? I mean, that's why. I want some insurance.
I need to be in a league with people who think that, because Todd Gurley got paid. They're going to use him like they usually do. Yeah, he might lose 5 carries a game. I don't think Henderson is any much better than Tev Coleman. I think they have very similar games. So, yeah, Todd Gurley is ultra talented. And Henderson, like you said, change of pace back, home run hitter. He could get a couple of touchdowns.
Other thoughts about David Montgomery before we move on, or should we just jump ahead?
The one thing I'll say about David Montgomery is I think the Bears are, they went out and for a running back free agent contract, they obviously had some legitimate interest in Mike Davis. So that's the one thing that I find, a little bit curious. Like, is he literally going to be useless, like, and barely even be involved in the game? Because, like, if you're getting Tariq Cohen his touches, and I don't think that his touch and his workload should really change all that much. And then Montgomery's there. If Montgomery is not at least getting the rest of the workload that Jordan Howard was getting, then he could even kind of stumble and be kind of in this first year or so. If Davis is getting, I don't know, 5-6 carries a game, 4 carries a game, if he's playing like, 15 snaps or whatever, if those 15 snaps are kind of coming, or 10 snaps are coming from David Montgomery snaps, and Cohen is still getting his allotment, even that then is kind of limiting David Montgomery for a little bit this year. And I'm intrigued, unless I'm thinking of the wrong team, but I don't think I am. I'm intrigued by their late running back pick also. They took the other kid from Florida Atlantic, correct? And yes,
that's right. That's right. I don't know a lot about him.
He's explosive. Like if Devin Singletary was slow, which he is, his teammate there is blazing. Like I think his pro day 40 time was like a 4.39 or 4.4. So he's a big play for right. I know Lance Zierlein and some other people thought he was the guy who was draftable on day 3 as a change of pace, big play kind of guy. So I don't know if he's even going to make the team but maybe he's their 4th running back. So I don't think he's going to impact the other guys in any way, shape, or form. But the Davis contract now kind of doesn't make sense if they were going to attack the running back in the draft and pick multiple ones.
Yeah, I think they'll use all 3, Paul. I think you're right. I mean, I think that's what the Bears intend to do. So that probably limits the ceiling of David Montgomery, at least in year 1.
Early on. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, let's go. We're going to wrap around. I'll sit this one out. I'm glad that I can use that cop out because it's even if I sit this one out and go to the 107. And Kyle Richardson is on the clock with the 107.
Can you just go back through them one more time real quick?
Yeah. Also, Ryan, it doesn't have to be even. We don't have to we can just change up the picks in the second round.
Oh, you want me to keep drawing names?
You got to get in this, Ryan.
Could be a 14-team league here. I mean,
There's 421
for a fantasy
dual copy.
Okay, fine. I'll take the pick. I'm going to take Dwayne Haskins at the 107. Superflex, you left him on the board for me. I love it. Falling to me at the 107. Haskins, great value. Love it. So there's my pick. He was my QB2 coming into the draft, and I just love where he went, and I think he's solid. If you look at his numbers, I don't have them in front of me, but his touchdown interception ratio, completion percentage. I mean, like other than he's only started 1 year, for me, he checks the boxes. So I'm pretty excited about him in Washington. So 107, would you guys have taken him if you had the pick?
I was going to take 2 quarterbacks.
That's a steal. I mean, we've all discussed why we haven't taken him, but still to get the quarterback 2 in a rookie superflex draft at the 107, that'll feel pretty good when that happens.
But as Trey says, Superflex leagues are all over the board. Most of them, people highly value quarterbacks, but there are some, especially newer leagues, where people just, they want to avoid it. And I think you've kind of heard that narrative this offseason that the quarterback position is so deep. We don't have to take them early on in startups. We can wait until the 6th or 7th round, and we'll get Ben Roethlisberger and Phillip Rivers, and our Superflex team will be fine. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes in your Superflex league.
So Ryan, we're in the same league together that we're drafting in right now, and I see you take Dwayne Haskins here, and I'm like, oh, I'll send Josh Rosen your way for him. What do you think?
That's a good question. Well, if you're making me that deal, I'm going to, counter and try to get more back, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what to think of Josh Rosen.
I'm not the Cardinals, Ryan. This is a fantasy.
I think you got to stick with Haskins. Don't listen. Washington's roster is awful. I mean, it is absolutely awful. But Miami is not much further ahead, and I'll take the guy that a team just spent the top 15 draft pick on versus a guy that struggled last year and now has been traded. His psyche has to be kind of messed with. I still, like Rosen in the long term if I can get him on the cheap, but it's a pretty easy call for me with Haskins over Rosen.
Well, not only that, but if you trade for Rosen right now, and let's say he has a decent 2019, not great, nothing to lock in his position, then next offseason, are you spending the entire offseason going, is Rosen going to be a starting quarterback for me, or is Miami going to invest a top pick in one of these quarterbacks coming out because they have no real capital invested in Rosen. They have, the one pick, but if he doesn't do well, there's tons of people who say that they could just go quarterback again and get their guy.
That's a great point.
Oh, that'd be so comically sad. But yeah, I agree. Stick with Haskins, but just I think you're going to see a lot of Rosen movement in leagues this year.
Maybe Rosen could get traded to the Giants next year after Miami drafts a quarterback 101, and he ends up in the team where he should have been in the first place, and then it finally works out.
I feel so bad for Daniel Jones. Let's give him a break. Come on.
So,
that's a good parlay of the comment with it.
His name in this rookie mock.
We'll get to Daniel Jones later. I think we're going to do a third round here.
Well, or like Eli could start for 3 more years. Well, then why did you take a quarterback 6th overall?
The 5th-year option, man.
Yeah. That's where you want to risk the last 2 years.
It's going to be so interesting to see it unfold. What's the media coverage like, Paul, in the New York area about? Is he just getting destroyed by the media?
Oh, get him in. He's such an easy target. It's just been brutal. But I mean, this has been going on for about 2 years now, and it's just every single day the back papers, I should say, the back page of all the newspapers is just it's endless and rootless, and it is what it is. Daniel Jones is going to have to prove him right, and if he does, then Gettleman looks like a genius. And I will say this, though. Inside the NFL, it does seem like their take on Daniel Jones is very, very different than what the fantasy draft Twitter community is. It does seem that inside the NFL, there was a legitimate split or even favorite towards Daniel Jones over Dwayne Haskins. And whatever, I was obviously more pro Dwayne Haskins, but it does seem like it was different inside the NFL circles in terms of the scouting, and maybe there's other stuff behind the scenes that that they're privy to that we aren't. But it does seem there is a little bit of a distinction in terms of how he's publicly viewed and how he's viewed inside the NFL. And I think that's the same thing with Rosen. And then we talked a little bit on Thursday night about it. There's something else with Rosen that we're not privy to, and whether it's the coachability, the character, the personality, the leadership. It's something that no team was willing to pony up much of anything to get him. There's a reason why multiple teams last year passed on him. And if the Cardinals don't move up to take him, maybe who knows how long he falls last year. And, his head coach going on pat to the draft last year and his very lukewarm, promoting him. I think those are all major red flags and concerns, and they know a lot more than we just analyze the film and not even like the coach's film, and we try to make the best of what we have. And I think there's a lot more behind the scenes and a lot more that they have access to that really changes the tune with them.
All right, Kyle, now you're on the clock at the 108.
I wanted to take Haskins.
I'm sorry, they forced me into the draft, so
you can't have him, Kyle.
Should have traded up.
Yeah, this is how drafts work, Kyle.
Well, back to your point too about doing, in startups, quarterback being so deep, taking older quarterbacks, that would have been exactly what I did in a startup. I would have waited. So I probably would have had 2 or 3 quarterbacks that are on their last legs. So I would have taken 2 younger quarterbacks in this draft and been like, okay, well, now I'm covered there. So that was a good point. But so if I have to go here, I guess part of me wants to take TJ Hawkinson, but then I don't want to because I yelled and screamed about him the other night because I'm a Lions fan and I thought it was a ridiculous pick. So I'm not going to do that because I'm boycotting it. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to go with DK Metcalf because I originally, when the pick was made, didn't love it. But then as soon after the pick was made, we started hearing about Doug Baldwin potentially being done. So now if that happens and Doug Baldwin doesn't end up playing another snap, now you have Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf there. They're so focused on the run. They've proven they're going to focus on the run. I get that. However, I am going to I'm going to jump in there and say, you know what? Maybe they throw it a little bit more this year. Maybe Metcalf comes in, and I know there's not a whole lot of Tyler Lockett fans out there. I do like him. But maybe Tyler Lockett does regress a little bit last year, and maybe Metcalf takes some of those touchdowns that Lockett had.
So Metcalf fits perfectly with Russell Wilson. I love it. I thought the fit was fantastic. Russell Wilson running around for his life. Metcalf just turns, takes off, bomb. Metcalf can go up and get it, unlike Lockett can. I mean, Metcalf is going to, I think, turn a lot of heads, and I think a lot of NFL teams are going to regret passing up on him. I love him in Seattle.
Yeah, he was a guy I was totally dismissing kind of before the draft, and now I'm a little more intrigued. And I hate to do that. I don't like to weigh too much into landing spot, but it does seem like it's a nice fit, and he is an intriguing prospect on a lot of levels. So I didn't think I would have any shares of him after these rookie drafts, but now I'm not so sure. And I don't know where he's going to go. I don't know how people are going to value him. I mean, maybe it's here late in the first round. I'd love to hear some other thoughts.
He's forcing Doug Baldwin to retire. He saw that pick. It's like, it's over.
Trey, you've been really low on DK Metcalf. So what do you think now?
He's not a guy that I'm going to own anywhere because inevitably someone's going to be willing to draft him higher than I will. I mean, I just have some significant concerns, and obviously, I don't have to go on and on. I think the concerns regarding his limitations have been pretty well documented. I'll have to say, though, I've warmed up to him significantly after seeing the video clip of him walking into his interview shirtless, and then seeing
that is the best.
seeing Pete Carroll whip his shirt off and then put it right back on real quick. So he could end up being a really great wide receiver there, but I think the hype on him has come from his early being kind of a darling in the Devy world, and the pictures that have circulated, the weight room videos. So I have some significant concerns about his ability to actually play wide receiver. Is he a freak athlete? Is he amazingly fast and ridiculously chiseled? Absolutely. But I just think it takes so much more than that to be successful in the NFL. And so he's a guy who's probably not going to be taken.
Good.
Question
More
for
for
you
me
then,
and
Trey.
you guys, all right?
My question is of everybody that's left on the board right now, do you think Metcalf has the highest ceiling, or do you have somebody over him that would have a higher ceiling?
Yeah, I would take someone right now over him.
Yeah, me too.
Is it my pick? Because that might be the guy I'm getting ready to say.
Well, I don't want to say who it is.
It is your pick.
I'm hoping to get him, but I just don't like. I wonder about DK's ceiling. We talk about his ceiling, Kevin White had a really high ceiling, right? Because he was super fast, and
Why did you have to bring him up, Trey? Come on.
So I think it's just telling that he was the 9th wide receiver taken off the board. He was passed over by a lot of teams, and I think that there could be some value to the landing spot there, but he makes me nervous. I don't know that he has the highest ceiling, but he definitely has that boom bust feel to him, and so I I just am going to pass.
I
mean, I could be wrong, but
I hate the comp of Kevin White because you're comping him to a 32-year-old rookie wide receiver coming into the NFL.
Yeah, let's not talk about Kevin White anymore. And anyone that had any hope of Kevin White being signed, he's signed with the Cardinals, right? And like, oh, there's some life left. I think that's been really smashed this draft. At least something good came out of it.
Did they draft a receiver? Arizona
A
draft.
very good one.
I think they actually just drafted another one while we've been recording. Crazy.
They drafted like a basketball starting five. Like how many guys? Caleb Wilson is pretty much a wide receiver too at their last pick. So I think they actually drafted like 5.
It's going to be just as fast as you can. Get that ball to any one of them as fast as you can, or just run, just take off. That's all it's going to be. It's going to have like half a second in the pocket, and it's going to be that boom, boom.
Bosch, don't take my guy, dude.
Somehow,
Don't take my guy.
Bosch is taking an Arizona wide receiver. Which one, John?
I'm not taking an Arizona wide receiver. Nope.
It's John Bosch. He's gonna snipe me.
No, DK got the landing spot that a lot of people wanted. I'll take the guy that the landing spot did not help, just because I like the player. I think he can still succeed, even though this team has been not ideal for a wide receiver lately. I'll take AJ Brown. So he's still, for me, he's my number 2 receiver actually. So I'm pretty happy to get him at this point. And this is what drafts are going to be like this year, where this just is going to happen. He's my second wide receiver, and how many have gone before him now? It's crazy.
So John, I own him in picks 3, and you know who to talk to if you really like him.
I don't have any money there. You know that. I don't have anything for rookie money this year.
Shocking.
Yeah.
That's not on brand for you, John.
Not at all.
Was it Ryan McDowell that put out on Twitter, who would you rather have, Corey Davis or AJ Brown? And it was pretty close. It was like 50-50.
Oh my God.
So what do we think about that? I mean, I'm still.
I went Corey Davis.
I think it's time to go buy Corey Davis, man. I mean, good.
Yeah,
God.
might be.
I want both of them, but dude, if 50% of the people are saying they'd rather have AJ Brown, then I'm going to give you my 107 or 106 or 108 or wherever,
I'd like to say it's a shiny new toy, but
Corey
it's not even
Davis.
a shiny new toy. It's just a new toy. I mean, it's still a Tennessee wide receiver, so it's not like it's not any shinier than Corey Davis.
And we
Corey
have to
Davis
remember,
put up decent production last year with the
he
one-on
actually
quarterback.
Yeah.
we have to remember Ryan Tannehill has also supported 2 receivers at one point, so I could see him doing it again.
That's awesome.
Sorry, I'm filling out the chat
John
here.
took out again.
So I know that Tyler, I know you got to jump off with us. Do you want to trade into the 110 and make another pick before you have to jump off?
I think I'm next anyways, aren't I?
Oh,
No.
hey, you are next. That's right. You don't even have to trade it. It's your pick.
No,
You want to
this
trade
is
out of it, or do you want to
Tyler
pick?
Tyler might still trade for it, though.
I honestly probably would. I like to trade, so
Give up a 4th to take this pick right now.
let me talk to the person with this pick, and I'll be back. No, I still got time. Don't rush me off. I know. You probably just push me off, but
No, you're good. I just want to be. You're good. Hey, stay as long as you like. We
okay.
got at least 2 rounds to do. Trey wants to do 3 rounds, which is crazy, but.
This is gonna be an easy pick for me. TJ Hawkinson. I think he's got the safest floor in this whole entire draft, especially in tight end premium. If it's that league, he's gonna be probably top 3 for me. I think Hawkinson with the 8 overall draft stock, the way they want to use the tight end in that Matt Patricia scheme, they want him to be the Gronk. He can block. He can do I think he's literally a slightly poor man's Gronk in my eyes, from what I've seen on tape. And the measurables might not be quite as outstanding as Gronk's probably were if he was healthy for when he did it. But I just think TJ Hawkinson is a guy that is going to get targets. They're going to use him. A different offensive coordinator. He's going to be on the field all the time from blocking. I think he could be a guy that gets 8 to 10 touchdowns year 1. Give me TJ Hawkinson in a position in fantasy football that we are begging for more people to come in and produce for us. So I'm going to take the early jump on a guy that I think could be a top 5 tight end in the next 3 years.
Yeah, I love the pick. This is who I was going to take at the 109. Talk about upside. I think Hawk is the tight end 1. We're going to get some pushback, Tyler, on that. but I'm with you. I love the pick. Who's with me? Who's with Tyler and I? Is Hawk the tight end 1 in this class?
No.
It's really close for me.
It's not
Hawkinson,
for me.
Hawkinson is for me.
But
I'll take Fant just because I like him a little bit more in Denver.
He
In
was
Denver,
before the
though?
draft.
What's that?
In Denver, I want people to explain to me why Denver. There's actually more targets in Denver than there is in Detroit. Like more people that need targets. You got Deshaun Hamilton, you got Cortland Sutton. You're gonna have running backs out of the backfield in both places. But I think Denver with I get Flacco's elite. I can accept that. But I just think that Denver is not as good as Detroit. I know that's probably a stretch, but
I think Detroit's a better offense. I just think Fant will get more targets, more use.
I think Fant is essentially could lead that team in targets.
Mhm.
I don't think that's unreasonable. I think that he and for me, Fant over Hawkinson is more long term. It's not as much year one. Obviously, I think we've been spoiled with some of the recent production. I mean, I know Kittle took a couple years. Ingram had early production, but you really have to be patient with these tight ends. So you're taking these guys for what they can be years down the road. But I do think the road to early targets for Fant is significantly greater in Denver than it is for Hawkinson in Detroit behind Galladay and Marvin Jones. I think he's going to be asked to block a lot more. I think they want to run the ball. And I think Kerryon Johnson's going to be involved in the passing game. So I just think that there's a safer path to early and better targets for Fant. Plus, I just love Fant's athleticism. I think his, from a metrics perspective, I love what he brings to the table. And, round one, he didn't go as early as Hawkinson, but
you're an Ebron fan, aren't you?
Nope. I
So-
sure am not.
this is where a little bit of the dive came to earlier today. It's about because Darrell Bevell is now the offensive coordinator in Detroit. He was the Vikings offensive coordinator basically through the early, most of the AP years, and talking about feeding the ball to the running back all the time. Then he had Marshawn Lynch in Seattle. He took over there in 2001 and took Tavares Jackson with him there from Minnesota. Interestingly enough, I was trying to look at tight end targets overall, and it's not great. Like Visante Shenko was his tight end most of the time in Minnesota. He had some good touchdown years and things like that. And I think that could be, if he has a red zone scheme that gets the tight end more wide open than it used to be. But it's a lot of projection in the modern NFL. When he had Jimmy Graham in 2016, he gave him 95 targets, had a hit, and then Jimmy Graham had 923 yards. But at the end of the day, I was trying to find a reason to why I think Hawkinson's just going to crush it year one. And I think as a new tight end coming out as a redshirt sophomore, he is slightly older than most redshirt sophomores. But I'm not expecting much out of these guys year one, him or Fant. I mean, Fant, I think, has upside to have more targets there, but it's not an easy adaptation. So I like taking these guys early, but this is for next year. If this pick now, if I'm taking it, I'm not expecting any production until 2020.
Hey, Paul, who's ready to play tight end in the NFL? Who do you think is gonna be the biggest producer? Just to put you on the spot, year one.
I mean, I think Hawkinson's going to play substantially more snaps. I don't even think it's going to be close. I think Hawkinson will be on the field 90%, 85, 90% of their offensive snaps. I think Noah Fant might play 55, 60. I think there's going to be a little bit of annoyance. People are going to be a little annoyed. I could see a little bit similarities to David Njoku's first year. I love Noah Fant. I like his athleticism. He's not my tight end 1. He's my tight end 2, but he is very raw. And his route tree and his route running is still got to be refined. If they ask him to do too much, I don't know. We all remember how much Seth DeValve played for that first year for the Browns when David Njoku was there. And even so, David Njoku still hasn't broken out. And to be honest with you, I don't think it's ever happening because of all the weapons there. I think he could become a nice low tight end 1, but I don't think him ever being a top 5 tight end is happening anymore. And part of it's just he never really finished developing in terms of being a really good route runner. He's got good athleticism and all that stuff, but he never kind of rounded out his game. And for Fant, I don't think he's a very good blocker. I I think he put on weight for the combine, but I don't think he's going to play at that weight. He wanted to test in a little bit better in terms of his weight. It didn't impact his athletic testing, but I bet he plays more like 235, 240 than 250, what he measured at the combine. So I don't think he can be much of a blocker. So it really depends on what kind of game plan they have for him in terms of, are they basically just asking him to be a receiver like Evan Ingram? And if they just ask that and they keep their route concepts very simple, I think he can make plays. I just am not betting on that year one. I think there could be a little bit more of developmental. I do think there's way more targets to go though in Denver, because I don't really think Cortland Sutton's that good. I think Deshaun Hamilton's average. So I think there's a lot more targets to be had. I think Galladay could be great, to be honest with you. And I think Marvin Jones is steady. So I do think there's more targets to go in Denver, but I'm worried about how quickly he's going to be ready to be a consistent producer. And I'm kind of hoping that the Vikings trade Kyle Rudolph between now and start of the year, because I actually think Irv Smith's the most ready to go in terms of his route running and route development. And I think he would have the best year one receiving output than anybody if he was locked into 60 to 70% snaps. I love Irv Smith Jr. Pre-draft, he was my number 2 tight end after Hawkinson. He's not my number 2 right now because, fans' opportunity is greater, his draft capital is greater, all that stuff. But I actually think Irv Smith's the most ready to make an impact in the NFL in terms of his receiving ability.
As a Detroit Lions fan, I have to chime in here. And I know we've been on this subject for a little bit, but let me get this part. So from a pure football standpoint, the Lions taking Hawkinson at 8 infuriated me, especially seeing Irv Smith Jr. could have went to them in the second round. I would have much rather seen like a Brian Burns at number 8 and then Irv Smith Jr. in the second round. So I'm not going to go into that big rant again. So here's my problem with Detroit and the tight end. And I know a lot of people are like, well, come up with an excuse that doesn't include Eric Ebron in it. And it can't happen because that's part of the excuse. But so people are saying Matt Patricia wants to have his Rob Gronkowski. That's the offense that he wants to run. If he wanted someone like that, then why in the world did the Lions not hold on to Ebron? Why did they let him walk last year for what he did? If they truly wanted a receiving tight end, somebody for Matthew Stafford at tight end, they would have held on to him. So spending the 8 overall pick on a tight end this year just seems absolutely ridiculous to me, especially considering we've already talked about what they want to do in the run game and how they want to run the ball more, it seems like. And I think that's what's going to happen. I think they're going to run the ball more. It's going to be Kerryon Johnson and CJ Anderson, carrying the rock as many times as possible, taking the load off Matthew Stafford. Now we're saying Matthew Stafford, you have to support Kenny Galladay. You have to support Marvin Jones. Oh, are you going to support TJ Hawkinson as well? Somebody's going to lose out at this point. It's not going to be the run game. So then are you going to take away from Marvin Jones and Kenny Galladay, who both have 2 years of experience with Matthew Stafford, for a rookie tight end that typically takes time to develop anyway? I cannot buy into Hawkinson this year. I can't do it. He's a fabulous athlete. He's a fabulous tight end. He's an amazing player. He was my tight end 1. I do think he's a better blocker. I do agree with the fact that he's going to be on the field more than Fant this year because of his blocking abilities. And if Detroit's going to run the ball more and they can keep him on the field, might as well do it. But in terms of pure output, fantasy football points, I'll take Fant over Hawkinson this year. Maybe long-term, that offense starts to develop a little bit more, but I hate it. I hate the fit with Detroit. I absolutely hate it. That's not going to be a popular pick. I think it's ridiculous.
All right. Thanks for holding back there, Kyle.
I just think you're forgetting about Golden Tate's targets. You're also forgetting the fact that he's not Ebron. Ebron couldn't block worth a damn. And Hawkinson can. So he's going to be on the field much more. He's going to play that Gronkowski role. He's going to play the guy that's going to be on the field constantly. You're not going to know if he's going to stay and block or if he's going to go out on a route. Gronkowski did that a lot, where it looked like he was staying and block, staying put, and then boom, he went on just a short route. They gave him the ball, run after the catch, which Hawkinson is great at too. I think you can't compare the past players to Hawkinson. You can't compare him to Ebron. You can't touch that. They're completely different players. And like you said, Marvin Jones, do we actually know if he's going to get the same amount of targets? Is he actually fully healthy? Is Galladay actually going to progress even more? Or is Hawkinson actually going to be the focal point of the targets? Is Galladay just going to turn into the pure red zone guy? Galladay's got to progress as well. And Marvin Jones has to become healthy. Golden Tate's targets are still there. There's a lot of things we got to put into the whole entire pick, the Hawkinson pick, and the idea of him being a fantasy relevant player year one, than just comparing him to Ebron.
I'll agree with you that I'm not specifically comparing him to Ebron in terms of being like a player. Hawkinson over Ebron, 100%. He's a much better overall player than what Ebron is. My comparison is, though, that if they were looking for that tight end to play the receiving role, to be the guy to make an impact, then why didn't they re-sign Eric Ebron last year, especially for the deal that he had? I mean, they had crap at tight end last year. If they really wanted to focus on that position, being a receiving threat, I feel like they would have brought him back. I can't, seeing this team and watching what they've done for so many years now. And I know we have Matt Patricia now, and I know they're trying their best to be the New England Patriots in every single way possible, which drives me nuts sometimes. But I can't buy into him being an actual, now red zone threat. Absolutely. I'll buy into him getting some touchdowns this year and being that guy that maybe helped support his value with those touchdowns a little bit. But from a volume standpoint, I can't buy into it.
I think that's totally fair. I think the Lions are in for a big change with Darrell Bevell as their offensive coordinator, like compared to what they've done in years past. This isn't it's not going to be the pass first all the time offense that just was with Jim Bob Cooter with no running game. I think you're going to see a heavy dose of the run game early in the season. You're going to see passing attempts go down. At least in my opinion, based on the history of Bevell. Like, this is because he was out of the league last year. He didn't coach. So I think we've forgotten about it. And Tyler, you can correct me if I'm wrong, because I bet that you know Vikings history way better than I do. But like, Bevell loves just running out of straight I formation and just pounding the rock. So
he also had one of the generational best running backs in the league back then. I mean,
so Chester Taylor though ran for 1,300 yards when Bevell first came in.
That's true.
Or 1,200, and
yeah, only
6 touchdowns. And then he went to Seattle where he struggled with a non-generational talent like Marshawn Lynch right away. Just kidding. It's I think that offensive philosophy though is going to change. You know,
I mean, maybe the year off he changed. We can only hope.
Ryan, I'm on the clock, right? At the 111?
You are on the clock, Trey.
So because it just flows right into this. I'm going to take the guy I was talking about earlier that I would have taken over Metcalf. This is the guy that for me would have been between AJ Brown and this gentleman at the 105 even. Not necessarily where I take him in rookie drafts. I try to trade down and still get him, but he's a top 6 player on my board, and that is Noah Fant. No question, he's my tight end 1. I love him. I think that he is without a doubt. I think the tight end landscape changing in the NFL right now, and I think that there is an opportunity for these guys, these young guys, to really step in. And again, I'm not, for me, year one, I just put this in the chat. For me, year one, when I'm drafting a tight end, is really meaningless. I mean, whatever I get in year 1 from a tight end I draft, or even in year 2, is a cherry on top. Like, I'm not drafting Noah Fant to put up production for me in year 1. I'm drafting him because I think that he can be on the level of an Ertz or a Kelsey. I think that he could be a difference maker, a major positional advantage for many, many years. I do not expect it in 2019. I don't even expect it in 2020. But for me, Noah Fant's a top 6 player in this class overall. In tight end premium, man, I think, especially if it's start 2 tight end, I think it's pretty crazy how high he could go. But that's my pick at the 111.
Very nice reaction to that. I think we've talked about the tight ends. I think we all have.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see if Hawk or Fant is the number 1. I think Fant will end up being the number 1 in most rookie drafts, but I could see Hawk. I think that's just
I mentioned like Darrell Bevell a few more times. I feel like that's relevant here.
Yeah, dropping Hawk to where I can take him. But going back to Fant, I have him at 7 overall, so it's not like I'm low on him. I just like Hawkinson a lot.
Oh yeah, I love both of them too. And yeah, if one drops to me, that's great.
So I do have one question, not to prolong the tight end talk a little bit more than what we already have. So when my kind of philosophy when it comes to drafting tight end and rookie drafts is to stay away from them, because I find a lot that owners who do invest in them, and I'm seeing the comments in the chat too, because I have YouTube up over here. So I'm watching the people commenting as well, talking about we've become too short-sighted.
This is live.
Oh yeah. And Trey and Will are supposed to be monitoring the chat. So Kyle, thank you for doing the job.
I'm on the chat, dude. I've been chatting all
Oh, good. Okay, I'm sorry.
I'm chopping it up with the homies, man.
All right. My bad.
So yeah, so I did. There's a couple of comments about being too short-sighted and things like that, but what I've noticed is a lot of times, and if you're playing in one of those deep dynasty leagues with guys in the industry, this isn't going to happen nearly as much. But if you're in leagues with your friends, if you're in some other leagues that aren't nearly that intense, a lot of times after that first year, people are going to give you a discount on those tight ends because they didn't do anything in year one. So for me to spend a first round pick on a tight end in a rookie draft when I can maybe get him next year for maybe a couple of guys that, maybe a wide receiver that has a chance to break out with a team, maybe one of those buy low type options, maybe a couple of extra rookie picks, maybe a second and a third or something like that. If you've got guys that invest in these tight ends and get absolutely nothing from them in year one, there's always a possibility that you can swoop in later and get them at a discounted price. And that's part of my argument in terms of I don't like investing in these tight ends so early.
Yep, which is a huge thing. You go back to know your league mates, know who you're playing with, because if they are people who panic after year one, then yeah, I'd go that route.
And I'm totally on board. I just think this year's draft is a little bit different. When we're going to go by comparison, we don't have a lot of exciting reaches we want to take here at running back. I feel like receivers, nobody's really excited either. We're not taking TJ Hawkinson, Noah Fant. We're not I feel like those aren't super excited about taking tight ends in round one of rookie drafts. That's not what you really want to do. This is like saying, okay, I'm basically delaying this to next year because I'm not confident enough in taking somebody else.
Whoever has the next pick, please don't take Irv Smith.
Who
I
does
like to trade up.
Let's talk about a different position.
I think I'm on the clock at 1.12, and I think we're starting to enter a little bit of no man's land in terms of there is a plethora of ways this pick could go. And this is, to me, I'm between two guys here, and the one I'm going to pick probably doesn't make much sense for most people, but I'm going against my pre-draft rankings. I'm going against draft capital. Those are not usually two things to go against, but I don't want to attach myself to the Baltimore Ravens offense and their quarterback. So I'm pivoting off of Marquise Brown, who I absolutely love as a talent and was my number 2 wide receiver pre-draft. And I'm actually going to pivot to McCole Hardman, the wide receiver out of Kansas City, who before anything even happened a couple of days ago about Tyreek Hill, I thought he was a really intriguing prospect. He was number 9 pre-draft for me. I was on a podcast a couple of weeks ago. I said he was the closest resemblance to Tyreek Hill in this draft class. And now he's going to be replacing Tyreek Hill. And I'm not saying he's going to become Tyreek Hill and put up those stats, but he's pretty explosive and he can do a lot of the Tyreek Hill stuff. And I think Andy Reid's going to maximize it. So at this point, I think I would shoot for the upside, and I would say I don't care. I'm never somebody. I know some people. I don't really care about collegiate statistics. It's just not for me. I watch Macaulay Hardman and saw him make an impact there for Georgia, and if he was on Oklahoma, I think he would have put up Marquise Brown stats. I think he could have done that. I think that offense a lot of people could have done that. So I don't go too much about the stats. I love the player. I think he's very versatile. He can be used in a variety of ways. And I'm going to bet on Mahomes and I'm going to bet on Andy Reid and that Chiefs offense. And I'd probably shoot for the home run there with McCole Hardman over Marquise Brown.
Yeah. I mean, why not go for upside? He has the talent, the situation. I think it's a solid pick at the 112. What do you guys think?
I have a feeling he's not going to go in the first round in a lot of rookie drafts. I don't mind the pick because, like you said, at this point, it's all kind of just get who you want. but I have a feeling he's a guy that's going to end up being available later just because, let's face it, like he wasn't exactly known by the general public as much as a lot of these other guys are. So I think people are going to take other names first that they recognize. I'm not saying it's a bad pick. I think he's a guy that I'm going to target later and hope to get him later.
I'm curious to ask, do you think he could be a guy? Rookie drafts tend to happen at all different times, right? Like you just said you're a rookie draft started. I know for me, my rookie drafts end up not happening until August, like after a couple of weeks of
he'll be higher then.
Preseason training camp. You see? I could see McCole Hardman's ADP dramatically altering from tomorrow. Like if people are putting out ADP data next week, and then what happens? All it takes is one or two plays, I think, in preseason or reports in training camp that he's doing the Tyreek Hill stuff, and there's going to be a drastic swing. So you're right. I think right now you probably wouldn't see him. I personally liked him even before he ended up in the ideal situation. I didn't even think he was going to have second round draft capital. I thought third round. So I can see that more people are still going to be very lukewarm on him right now. I wonder if that changes after training camp and after some preseason games, if we see one or two explosive plays.
Paul, do you remember when they wanted him to play cornerback earlier this offseason? That's ridiculous now. Like you look back at it, and he's a 5-star guy coming out of high school. This guy is ultra talented. And I agree with you guys. I mean, right now you could probably get him late second, early third even. And I think, like you said, in August, you're probably going to have to take him mid to late first round. You know, if Tyreek ends up getting dropped and he takes over for Tyreek, that's going to be an earlier pick.
Guys, I'm on the clock here at the 102, and this is, or excuse me, the 201 rather. This is a tough pick. I mean, I'm glad we're doing this exercise because I'm kind of at a loss, and I think I'm going to make a pick that might be a bit of a reach, but I'm going to take Darrell Henderson, the new running back for the LA Rams. And my thinking here is when we talk about upside, I think there's enough concern about Todd Gurley that I think Henderson is going to be a big part of that offense than we think. I don't think he's going to be a bell cow or anything, obviously. I don't think Todd Gurley is going away, but I don't know. I'm just intrigued by him enough. And, you know, with third round draft capital, I mean, I don't feel great about the pick, but I don't know who I'm going to feel great about. I thought about Hollywood Brown here. Maybe that's a smart pick to make. Maybe Irv Smith Jr. is in consideration. But I'm going to go with Darrell Henderson, who is my next highest ranked running back, and I don't feel good about it. So someone make me feel good about this pick.
Sorry.
Can we talk about if you were to take Irv Smith? Can we talk about that situation?
Let's talk about Irv Smith when we get to Irv Smith.
No, Ryan, I like the pick a lot, honestly. And for me, it comes down to two things. One, we saw the end of last season, Todd Gurley had some issues that, you know, like obviously nobody kind of saw coming. He just signed this big contract. He's a massive workhorse. And so I think going into this offseason, and I think them taking Henderson in the third round is a perfect example of the changing mindset probably that's going to happen within that franchise. And the one thing I love about him is not only is he explosive, but he's going to one of the best and most explosive offenses in the NFL. When you talk about, I mean, there may be plays where they have Gurley and Henderson on the field at the same time and three wide receivers set and he runs a route. You know, I think his ability as a pass catcher and his explosiveness, you know, I don't think it's unreasonable to see a 70-30 split there for carries, because I think that if the Rams were just in the Super Bowl, they don't care about getting Gurley 300 touches. They care about winning football games and winning a championship. They've had a taste of it now. And so I think that the model for them for success is to keep Gurley fresh throughout the year. I think Gurley is still going to get a lot of touches, but I believe Henderson's going to be a real value in rookie drafts because of the thought process that he's just a backup, that he's just a handcuff. And lo and behold, if Gurley were to go down and this knee condition were to create an injury where he's overcompensating, or, you know, this isn't my wheelhouse, but if he were to have some sort of an injury and Henderson were to take over as the starting running back in that offense, I mean, my God, like the 201 will look like nothing to have spent for that upside. So I think it's a nice pick, man. I like it.
Thank you, Trey. I appreciate it.
Here's a question. Do you think that the Rams progressively limit Gurley throughout the year? He starts with a higher count, and then they start toning him down a little bit more towards the end of the year, going into the playoffs, and then ramp it back up? Or do you think it's an even split, or not an even split, but in terms of winding down his workload, they keep it even throughout the entire year, and they keep the split through the entire year?
That's a great question. That's something I worry about. Because I do get that feeling that dynasty owners of Todd Gurley might be really disappointed when it comes to the fantasy playoffs, because they're going to want to rest him for the playoffs. So, I mean, I know that's, speculation. We just don't know, do we? So, yeah.
I think the late season is going to matter a lot more to the Rams than it did this past year. The rest of that division is getting better. Their schedule changes. I don't think they're going to be this dominant overall team that they were. So I don't think Gurley's rest, at least in week 15 and 16, is going to be as relevant as it was last year with what they did.
Yeah, I mean, there'll be a lot of good teams in NFC in general. So even if they've got the West wrapped up, they're going to be fighting for first round bye, right?
And I'm wrong often. I'm so with these kind of things, but that's just where I gamble on. I get is what I mean to say, like not hardcore stance. Just that's where I put my chips.
Let's move on to the 202, Kyle. 202. You see, we've typed in our chat on our Zoom who's off the board. Maybe to run it down for is it in the chat on YouTube? I'll run it down again though. 101 Kyler Murray, 102 N'Keal Harry, 103 Josh Jacobs, 104 Miles Sanders, 105 Deebo Samuel, 106 David Montgomery, 107 Dwayne Haskins, 108 DK Metcalf, 109 AJ Brown, 110 TJ Hawkinson, 111 Noah Fant, 112 Mecole Hardman. I don't even know his first name yet, Paul. He's still so new to me. And then 201 Jarrell Henderson. So 202 Kyle Richardson, go ahead. I need some time there.
I don't want to make the pick, but I'll have to pick Marquise Brown here.
Hollywood Brown. Woo!
I don't like him as much as other people do. In terms of draft capital, I think he makes the most sense at this point in the mock draft. But I definitely don't love the Tyreek Hill, Deshaun Jackson type comparisons, because we're trying to compare this guy to outliers in my mind. I mean, at the combine, he was 166, 170 pounds or whatever it was. I mean, to me, he's going to be more of just a straight line burner. And I know a lot of people don't agree with that. But I don't want to hook myself to a guy like that with a Lamar Jackson, who I like a lot. I'm a big Lamar Jackson fan, but I also know that he has a lot of growing to do still as a passer. So, but in terms of draft capital and where we're at in this mock, I mean, it makes sense to pick him here.
He just feels like a guy that's going to have some big boom weeks. Maybe he'll be 4 for 70 and a touchdown, but then he'll have many weeks where he's 2 for 30 or something like that. He just feels very boom bust, and a guy that maybe great on your best ball team, maybe not so much for a team where you have to set a lineup. I mean, he has that kind of feel. Maybe I'm way off on that.
I feel like he's going to be really dependent on the big plays to make weeks worth it for fantasy owners.
Does anyone disagree though? I mean, clearly he slipped to the 202. So if anyone loved him, he would have gone earlier, I think.
I will have none of him. I can already tell you that. I just won't have him on any teams. There are still a couple of wide receivers that I would take right here before him even.
I think in a lot of leagues he's going to go much higher than this.
I hope so.
And I'm excited. I can't wait. I don't know if I'm sure you guys, some of you at least, watched and saw the pick, man, and just the raw emotion that this kid had, and everybody. I mean, nobody, like, he's 166 pounds. This and that, like all of this doubt, all of this, at least I see tons of it in the Twitter, dynasty community. I'm cheering for the guy. I legitimately want to have a couple shares because I want to see him succeed. I think it's great when, people kind of break the mold, players break the mold. And I think, we talked about this, I think on a previous recording, just when it was Ryan, Will, and I, and if there's ever a time that a 166-pound wide receiver can become an impact player in the NFL and for fantasy, it's in the NFL of 2019 and beyond. And so I think I'm cheering for him. And so I think he could end up being a better NFL weapon than for fantasy, take the top off that offense and open things up a little bit for Lamar Jackson. But I love it. I'm pulling for him.
All right, so we've got a trade, and I think I messed up the order because I think I skipped Will at some point, but we've got a trade. Tyler, you're trading up to take somebody here.
Yeah, I unfortunately have to get going. No,
we made a sweet deal.
Yeah, it was a good deal. I have a pregnant wife I need to help out and take care of, so she needs some things done before bedtime. So I am going to take Paris Campbell here. I think probably the biggest talent on the board. He's my 7th overall rookie.
What did he trade to get up to here? I have to leave too.
He's actually my number 8 overall player. I love the landing spot. A lot of people think, he's kind of similar to T.Y. Hilton. I think he is going to do the exact opposite of T.Y. Hilton. I think they're going to give him some short routes, go on screens, and just do his thing. I think that's what he's going to be good at. He's playing on turf, so it's going to help him out as well with his speed and the quickness. He's got Andrew Luck throwing him the ball. I mean, what more could you want? I love Paris Campbell's landing spot. I'm gonna hopefully own him in a lot of leagues.
Yeah, he's a guy I'm not sure what to think of because I wonder how the Colts are going to use him. I guess in the back of my head, I worry that he's going to be just kind of a guy that they're going to move around and just use as a weapon in the offense, and he's not going to be consistent. But I don't know. That's just my feeling, and I have no basis to believe that. Where does the rest of the panel think about Paris Campbell?
I would have taken him above Marquise Brown. That's who I would have taken if it was my pick and somebody hadn't traded up to snipe me.
I got skipped, and so I gave it to Tyler so that you'd take care of his children, John. You're welcome. John has no kids, so I'm just kidding.
He is like 40.
I know.
I have 3, but they're not here, so it doesn't matter.
That's not fair.
So I like the pick of Campbell because I think he's a good value at this point in the draft. My concern is that he's more that Curtis Samuel type of player with less carries in college. He's very similar to me in his what could be production on the Colts as Nyheim Hines is. And Nyheim Hines is a little bit faster, but not as good as the pass catcher overall. But unless Paris Campbell has some secret sneaky deep ball receiving skills, maybe long term it works out well. But and I want to be pleasantly surprised by him. But in that offense and what they're doing and the players they have, I think he's going to go earlier than this. I think he's going to be a later first round pick. So I think at this point in time, he's a really good value. I just don't think I'm going to end up with a lot of him because of where he's going to go.
If there's one thing I have actually learned, it's just believe in Chris Ballard. Like, that dude is smart at drafting. He knows what fits what he wants. I trust him. And if I had a choice of a GM, he would be in the top 3.
Hey guys,
real quick, I was going to say, I think Paris Campbell could, he's a guy that if you like, but you don't get him, I think he could be a guy that you could buy for cheaper potentially during year 1, because I think with Hilton there and Funchess coming in and Ebron already in place, I think he's a guy that, kind of freakish as an athlete, but some room to grow as an actual NFL receiver. And so I think he's a guy that could end up, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe he splashes in year 1. But I think he's the kind of guy that someone could take there in the mid to late first, and he doesn't put up a lot of production in year 1, and could be a guy to buy on the cheap after a year. That's all. Sorry, Ryan.
Yeah, I'm coming off super negative on these picks, and I didn't mean to be. I think at the 203, I would take Paris Campbell all day. I just think he slips as far,
It's a kind of exciting guy to get the 203 because the potential, the upside is, the Colts offense, that's exciting. Okay, so we're going to speed things up because we're probably going to go another 15 minutes. We are all tired. It's been a long weekend. People have been, staying up late, writing, doing podcasts. So we're going to speed this up. And if you got to jump off, jump off. So, but I think John Bosch, I told you Tyler's going to go. Thanks, Tyler, for coming on. This was fun.
Thanks for having me, guys. Nice meeting everybody who I have not met. John, I will be seeing you in the next month, battling in auctions with you.
14 minutes, bar tab opens.
Yep.
Thanks, Tyler. Appreciate it, man.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Tyler.
All right, so it's to me then.
Yeah.
All right, this is an internal argument I've literally been having with myself all day. So this is a fantastic place that I have to make a pick. This is fun. I do want a piece of the Cardinals offense here.
All right.
God, I have not. Oh, man.
Kyler Murray's off the board, just as a heads up.
That's what I wanted. Oh man. All right, I have to pick one of them. So I'm gonna go Isabella.
And Isabella.
I'll go with the draft stock argument, even though I really want it to be Hakeem Butler, but I'll go with what the team said, and I'll go with Andy Isabella. Oh man, I don't know. What do you guys think? Would you, in between the two, do you?
Isabella for sure. For me, I like Isabella a lot. He's a guy I kind of debated earlier when I took Henderson.
Yeah, I mean, I think right now I have Butler. I copped out and put them right next to each other on my rankings. And I had Isabella. I told myself if Butler was drafted on day 3, I wasn't moving anybody else above Isabella. And then he goes on the first pick of day 3. And I was like, come on.
That's almost day 2.
I was like,
hey, Steve Kimes didn't listen to trade offers for that pick until 35 seconds before it was due.
So it was like he kind of could be a round 3 pick.
Yeah.
So I put him ahead because I think his upside, is a little bit higher. But I mean, I don't remember off the top of my head. Where was Isabella at the end of round 2, or did he sneak? Was it early round 3? Did anyone have that exactly where he was taken?
Second round, pick 30.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so I knew it was either late second or early in third. I mean, so they invested high draft capital. Like Cliff Kingsbury obviously has a significant plan for him. They obviously weren't expecting potentially Hakeem Butler to be there. So obviously they already showed their hand a little bit that Andy Isabella was significantly higher on their board, most likely, and for what they wanted and what they needed. And they wanted that vertical component that Isabella could offer, that rare speed. Butler can get vertical as well, just different style. So they kind of showed their hand a little bit. Now, does that mean Isabella's going to get more opportunities? Not sure. I mean, so I went with Butler, but to me, that's a coin flip. I think the name value and the name brand of Butler, and in the fantasy community, I mean, there's some heavy hitters that use words like transcendent, generational, best receiver I've ever evaluated. So there's been some high talk of Butler. So I think Butler's ADP is going to be higher than Isabella. I think it's a coin flip though, and more of like a personal, what you maybe think about those guys when push comes to shove.
So we move on to the 205 and Will Greenwood.
Oh, so I have one. Nice.
My bad.
Mysteriously traded back out of the first round, and didn't even notice it. So it's also know your leagues, everybody. So on my list that I made earlier, I think I'm actually gonna pivot just slightly here, and in Superflex at the 205, I'm gonna take Daniel Jones.
Yeah, baby, Daniel Jones. Love it.
I moved Butler pretty far down after his draft capital, and I have initially J.J. Arcega-Whiteside and Devin Singletary there, but I think I want to go. I just want to go safety here, and in Superflex, I'm going to pretend that these are the leagues that I'm in. I'm not normally very quarterback deep, more than 3 or 4, and I think Daniel Jones has at least a great holding value there. And in this draft, I'm kind of hedging bets and taking less risk.
Yeah, all kidding aside, I think this is where he should go, because I remember last year, even though Paul told us, Josh Allen, you want to invest in him, a lot of us didn't, and he slipped really far in Superflex drafts, and a lot of them. And, like we could be wrong about Daniel Jones. We just don't know. If you look at history, the draft capital spent on him, I think it's a great pick. I may be on an island here. And I don't think he's going to work out. But at the 205, a quarterback in a Superflex league, come on.
And even if we are right, even if the NFL is wrong and we're right, and he's Ryan Tannehill or Andy Dalton, that still has value in a Superflex league. And considering how much uncertainty there is in this draft and where we are in this draft and what prospects we're picking from, even if we're right and he's Ryan Tannehill or Andy Dalton, it's still good value. And what if the offset chance Dave Gettleman's right and Gil Brandt's right and he's some version of Peyton Manning or Eli Manning? Well, then it's the best pick, in the Superflex league ever, basically. So I mean, I think it's definitely the appropriate value. And if he's at least worst case 3-4 years of Andy Dalton or Ryan Tannehill, I think that's good enough. And if the NFL's right and Gettleman's right and Shermer's right, well, then you hit a home run.
I think the coolest thing about Daniel Jones, if you go to Player Profiler, his best comparable is Davis Webb. Full circle, baby. It's full circle. No, I think it's a great pick, Will. We talked about this before as well. I think this is a, early second. We're getting to dart throw range. I mean, there's some educated dart throws and some decent draft capital dart throws. But, I mean, if you're going to take a quarterback in Superflex, I mean, taking one that was, picked in the top 6 picks of the NFL draft is a decent bet, man. So, because I think you're going to see Drew Lock also probably go in this second round of Superflex drafts, and I just think
Table talk, Trey. Man.
to be able to get the draft capital of the 6th overall pick at this point in Superflex is awesome.
I like that Paul couldn't even say, and what if Gettleman is right? Without his face just breaking into laughter at the sheer thought of it.
I'm first hoping, time for everything, John.
I'm hoping he's right. I mean, there's only so much more losing I want to watch, but I have my doubts.
Yeah, and if that offensive line, they didn't really add anything in the draft. I know they made the pick. They made the trade for what's his face from Cleveland. I mean. Yeah. Eli could get hurt pretty easily.
All right, let's keep moving along. We've got about 7 minutes left, roughly. People could stay around and people have to leave, and 7 picks to make. So let's do lightning round. Trey Barrett, I think, at the 206. I've kind of lost my place, but we'll say Trey's up.
Yes, I am up. This is a tough call for me, but just in the sake of time, I'm going to take a guy that I think is going to have some upside long term, and that is JJ Arcega-Whiteside. So at the 2-0, whatever I am right now, I'll take Arcega-Whiteside.
That's the 206, JJ Arcega-Whiteside. I think that's a solid pick. I think all these picks were going to be like, yeah, I can see that guy going in this range. Paul with the 207. Who are you going to go with here?
Yeah, I'm going to go back to we don't have to talk much about him because we already did really lengthy conversations about the tight ends. I'm going to take Irv Smith here. I'm a big fan of him. I think he's as talented as the other guys. And when they finally endlessly move on from Kyle Rudolph, I think Kirk Cousins will really like having Irv Smith there to kind of complement Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs. Obviously, we saw in the past, he utilizes the tight end a lot in Washington, and I think Irv Smith could be a pretty impactful tight end on a Delaney Walker type style, but I think he's much more athletic than that as well.
Oh, okay. I think I'm up at the 208, and I just can't do. I was thinking about Butler, but I don't think I can do it. And I'll save that for someone else.
Lightning rounds, Ryan. Lightning round.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm going to do Jay Sternberger, the tight end, Green Bay Packers. I think he's a guy that's interesting. I just like the landing spot at the late in the second round. I just kind of like his upside there. So Jay Sternberger is who I'm going to go with. And then the 209 would be Kyle Richardson. What's up?
I'm going to take Hakeem Butler just because I can't go through a rookie draft and not take one of my favorite players.
That's a great
Sternberger just went before him. Kyle, how are you not upset about this?
Dude, that's a great pick.
Guys, lightning rounds.
Did I just miss getting him and Andy Isabella by one pick? Dang it. So what am I? 209 now. It is me now, right? I think I've been going
Yes,
after Kyle.
210, but it's you.
Okay. Oof. Oh man, I got. Jeez.
Hard. It's
Yeah.
hard.
God, Drew Lock's probably the right call, but
Yeah, I'll just say quickly, like
Yeah.
in the late second, I might try to trade back to get like a couple of third round picks here because I think at this point, all these guys there's gonna be some third rounders I like as much as these guys.
I want a wide receiver, but that is the strategy that I would love to do too. But since that's not an option, I'll just go ahead and suck it up, and I'll be the person that takes the quarterback here. I'll take Drew Lock. I'm not thrilled about it, but it feels like the right place to take, a quarterback that the NFL team invested in at least.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think it's a smart pick. I like it. Will 211.
Yeah, I'm going to go Devin Singletary. After looking at
I like it.
TJ Yeldon's contract that he signed, he has $500,000 guaranteed over those 2 years. Horrible contract, TJ. But and with some older running backs, and with him having third round draft capital, I'm actually kind of surprised. Like, it's not my favorite player ever, but he went early in the third round. He went 310, so 74th pick overall to the Bills. So in that offense, there's not like a ton of upside, but at least I think. But I'll hedge here again for draft capital and for Devin Singletary. It's not like this late in the draft. I'm not taking my guys over what I think more probability could happen with Devin.
No, I like the pick. I kind of overlooked him. I might have changed my pick had I realized he was still there, but that's okay. Should we crowdsource the 212? I think we've all had the same even number of picks. Anyone that we want to, let's say this is the war room and we have a team together. Who's going to pound the table for this pick at the 212?
I don't think anybody's going to pound the table.
I think I would, honestly, at this range, and it's Damian Harris. I know that the Patriots spent a pick in the first round on Sony Michel last year, but I think that offense, I think that's an incredible. If Michel were to struggle with injuries, I think I think Damian Harris could have some value, a standalone value. So give me the backup running back that was taken in the third round in one of the best offenses in the league. And I'm pretty content at the end of the second round to get a guy like that. He's a guy that I think would be a guy I'd love to jump up and grab at this point of a rookie draft.
I think it's like Justice Hill.
Oh, we got a disagreement.
No, not heavily. I don't think there's anything like Damian Harris. I'd be like, oh yeah, that's a good pick. Like,
yeah, I also think there's two wide receivers that I'd have in play too.
Miles Boykin, who I would have. Is that one of them, or you got somebody else?
No, I got two others. A little bit of draft capital built in, and two guys that I was just fans of before the draft. I think about Terry McLaurin, especially with the built-in connection to Dwayne Haskins. To me, McLaurin, I've comped him to a Golden Tate type player in terms of his physicality and toughness for a smaller guy, but he's built up pretty well inside, outside, very much like Golden Tate. When Golden Tate, I thought, was in Seattle and Notre Dame, not so much the Golden Tate now of the 5-yard route variety. And then I like Deontay Johnson a lot before the draft even started. He was one of my sleepers. I thought it was going to be a Dave Paris sleeper. And then Pittsburgh drafts him early on. I think it was like the second or third pick in round 3. And I mean, they could lie. I mean, but I don't know why they would have went to the lengths that they did after they picked the pick in their announcement that they had a first round grade on him. And if the Steelers do one thing right, it's draft wide receivers, and usually they get them in that like second or third round range, or sometimes even further back, and develop them. I really like Deontay Johnson a lot. Maybe I like James Washington last year, but maybe they've already soured on him a little bit, or maybe they just want the need for 3 of them. But I like Johnson a lot. The athleticism, the speed. I think he's a good route runner, inside, outside versatility, and now he's got draft capital to a team that really, really develops wide receivers well for the most part.
Holy Toledo. I can't believe you took him. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. It's getting late. Okay. Okay, I think we need to end the show here. Any final thoughts? This was our exercise through the Superflex Rookie Mock Draft. Some thoughts. There's all kinds of we didn't even get to how does this draft impact veterans winners or losers. There's so much to talk about, but we have so much time to talk about it. Unless you have a rookie draft, now, or you have a decisions to make on cuts. But any final thoughts quickly? Let's just anyone that wants to shout anything out. 30 seconds or less. Final takeaways. Anybody?
I mean, I love Calvin Harmon, but after doing this exercise, I don't see how he sneaks into the second round. I mean, I guess maybe there's a couple picks at the end that maybe it could be him, but there's still Miles Boykin. There's still some other running backs. Maybe if it's not super flex, he can sneak in if the quarterbacks get pushed down the board. I know I have him after Miles Boykin. Those are my next two wide receivers. But I love the player, but this is Equinemius St. Brown in terms of the pre-draft, the post-draft, how much it swung.
Which I think brings up a great point of the winners. I feel like of the draft class this year: Green Bay wide receivers, the New Orleans wide receivers overall, maybe even like Simi Cobbs, who ended up being picked up off the practice squad. To them, there'll be some very interesting developments on that team. Green Bay running backs, the Colts running backs, at least for this season. I think this draft is very interesting for places players who are at risk. Ended up being pretty safe.
I think looking at not necessarily the skill position players that were drafted, but looking at like the offensive linemen that were drafted, the Bengals with their pick. I know a lot of people thought they might go defense and probably would have if Devin Bush hadn't been taken off the table there. But I think them helping out the offensive line is a huge help for Joe Mixon.
I'm curious about, I know we talked Superflex here, but I'm curious how quickly somebody would take Kyler Murray and a single quarterback. Does anybody have any spot how would you take him at the end of the first, beginning of the second, with the expectation that, man, if he hits, look at what's happened in the past couple of NFL drafts. What's going on with the quarterbacks that are hitting?
I think recency bias with Patrick Mahomes is gonna get people to say, "Oh, I'm gonna invest in Kyler Murray super early."
Yeah, I think he ends up going round one just because of what we basically talked about. There's so much uncertainty. Like I could see somebody even saying, AJ Brown or Kyler Murray. AJ Brown might just be safe, and if people think that Corey Davis is the guy there, and now he's going to be a secondary guy, somebody might say, I'm going to take a shot on Kyler Murray being a top 5 or top 4, dynasty quarterback in the future. So I think with all the uncertainty and so few running backs locked in the round one, I actually be surprised if Murray doesn't go in round one, I think now.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's definitely the thought that crossed my mind where I have those 1 QB leagues, late first, early seconds. Where do I take Kyler Murray? Where do I take him? Great point, John. Really great point. And I think with that, we're all getting tired. It's been a long weekend. We still need to wrap our heads around what we're going to do in our dynasty leagues and our rookie drafts. Hopefully this conversation has helped you and not confused you even more. But I want to thank everyone that joined us. Tyler Gunther's not here. John Bosch, Paul Perticchese, Kyle Richardson. My partners in crime, Trey Barrett, Will Greenwood. I'm Ryan Livergood, and we are the Fantasy Joes. Good luck, everybody, for drafts starting. Good luck.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here, guys.
Thanks
for coming on. Have a good night.